So Branch just released their brand new Ergonomic Chair Pro, which is an upgrade to their original Branch Ergonomic Chair. The original is their most popular model and one of my favorite budget office chairs, so when I saw they released the Pro model, I was really excited to try it out. Now the Branch Ergonomic Chair Pro is positioned as a mid-range office chair starting at $499. It aims to improve on the original by adding more adjustability options, material choices, and overall upgrades to the previous design. But the question is, are these changes actually worth the roughly $200 price increase over the original? In this video, I'll compare both chairs after extensively testing them over the past few months to help you decide which one is going to be the better fit for you. We'll take a look at the key differences between the Pro and the original, breaking down everything I liked and didn't like about each chair. Now before we dive in, I just want to mention that I bought these chairs with my own money. This video isn't sponsored, but I will have some affiliate links down in the description. If you find this comparison helpful and want to check out either chair, please consider using those links as it really helps support the channel at no extra cost to you. So with that out of the way, let's jump right in by looking at the design of the two chairs. Now right off the bat, you'll notice that aesthetically, the Pro looks very similar to the original. The shape of the chair and outer frame are basically identical, which isn't necessarily a bad thing since I really like the design of the original Branch Ergonomic Chair. Both chairs have a sleek, modern look that can fit into pretty much any setup, whether it's a home office or corporate environment. One notable difference is that the Pro actually offers fewer color options than the original Branch Ergonomic, not including the leather options, which are technically upgrades. The Pro's colors are more neutral and toned down compared to the original, which offer more brighter, vibrant options. And this kind of makes sense considering the Pro is more geared towards professional work environments. And like I mentioned, the Pro does add new upholstery options, offering both vegan leather and genuine leather in addition to mesh. Now these do cost a bit more, but really add to the professional aesthetic of the chair in my opinion. And when it comes to materials and build quality, both chairs are built pretty well. In fact, both chairs are nearly identical in terms of materials and build quality, with only a couple of minor differences. Now you could see this as either a good thing or a bad thing considering the price difference between the Pro and the original. The frames are basically identical between the two chairs. Both use dense plastic frames that feel sturdy with metal bases for stability. The Pro does add those new upholstery options, but those are technically upgrades that will cost you more. I have the vegan leather option, which feels pretty high quality in my opinion. It looks good and adds a bit of extra softness, though keep in mind the leather options won't be as breathable as mesh. One thing I really appreciate about both chairs is that all the adjustment mechanisms feel solid and operate smoothly. Nothing feels particularly cheap or flimsy on either model. Overall, I don't have too many complaints in terms of build quality on either chair. That said, the Pro model is about $200 more than the original Branch Ergonomic, despite the build quality feeling nearly identical to me, making the price difference a bit harder to justify. Now let's break down the comfort of both chairs, starting with the seats. Now this is where we start to see some pretty significant differences between the two chairs, and unfortunately not all for the better with the Pro. The original Branch Ergonomic has a really comfortable seat in my opinion. It has a medium firmness that hits a nice sweet spot. It's firm enough so that it provides good support, but well padded enough so that it's comfortable for long sessions. The contoured shape gives you a subtle cradling feeling without being restrictive. On the other hand, the Pro seat pad is thicker at the front and thinner at the back. Also is noticeably softer compared to the original in my opinion. And while this might sound like an improvement, it actually leads to some pretty major issues. The main problem is that the softer seat tends to bottom out around the tailbone area where the padding is thinner. This makes the seat very uncomfortable for long sessions because you sink right through the foam and feel the hard plastic bottom. This is a huge problem, especially because I didn't have this issue at all on the original Branch Ergonomic. Now moving on, new to the Pro is a forward seat tilt feature. When activated, it plants your feet into the floor and puts you in a very upright position. This is similar to what you'll find on a lot of Haworth chairs, but comes as a standard on the Branch chair rather than as an upgrade. Personally, I don't use this feature much, but I know some people really like it, so it's nice to have the option at no extra cost. Overall, I think the original Branch Ergonomic Chair seat is much more comfortable pretty much by default simply because it doesn't bottom out. And it's a real shame since the Pro is supposed to be an upgrade over the original and costs significantly more. If they had just kept the seat pad exactly the same and added all these new features, then this would have actually been a pretty good seat in my opinion. But as it stands, this seat is practically unusable for long hours in my opinion. Moving on to the backrest, the Pro now offers 3 different material options: mesh, vegan leather, and genuine leather, compared to the original that only came in mesh. Like I said, I have the vegan leather option on the Pro, which costs an extra $50. The genuine leather costs an extra $150, but overall these upgrades are pretty affordable compared to leather options on other ergonomic chairs at this price point. The frame of the backrest is pretty much identical on both chairs, which unfortunately means the Pro carries over some of the same issues from the original. Both have a really rigid frame that doesn't offer much flexibility, and both have relatively loose upholstery that lets you sink through and feel the hard frame underneath. Now I was hoping the vegan leather would add a layer of softness on the Pro, but that's not really the case here. If we look at the back, it appears to just be mesh with a thin layer of vegan leather on top. The original Branch Ergonomic uses a double layered mesh material that actually gives it a softer feel, almost as if it's padded. In my opinion, it actually feels softer than the Pro model, despite my version having a vegan leather layer on top. And while you can still sink through the upholstery and feel the frame underneath on both chairs, I don't think it feels nearly as harsh on the original Branch Ergonomic due to the padded mesh. One thing to keep in mind is that they actually changed the mesh on the Pro version compared to the mesh on the original. The new mesh on the Pro looks more like a standard mesh compared to the double layered padded mesh on the original. And while I haven't personally tested it, if it's anything like the vegan leather version, then this could potentially be worse when it comes to feeling the frame underneath, since you're not going to get that softer feeling of the double layered mesh on the original. Now when it comes to the lumbar support, this is where we see a pretty significant improvement on the Pro compared to the original. It uses a much thicker, softer padding material that's more comfortable than the original's lumbar support, which was too aggressive and tended to dig into your back in my opinion. The Pro also adds depth adjustment in addition to height adjustment, where the original only had height adjustment. You can adjust the depth of the lumbar support by twisting the tabs on the back. In the strong lumbar setting, it's pretty aggressive but doesn't feel pokey at all. If you're someone who likes more aggressive lumbar support, then you'll probably like this. In the looser setting, you can barely feel it. You can even see how floppy it is when moving the pad around. Now overall, while it's not perfect, the Pro's lumbar support is a significant improvement over the original. The pad is just much more comfortable and you have more control over how pronounced the lumbar support feels. So overall, I think the lumbar support is a huge upgrade. Now when it comes to the Recline, both chairs have pretty smooth recline motions thanks to their synchro tilt mechanisms. And also both chairs have a deep recline, which is really good for lounging. One significant improvement on the Pro is the location of the tilt tension knob. It's now on the side of the chair, which is a huge upgrade from the original Branch Ergonomic. The original had possibly the worst tilt tension knob placement I've ever seen on a chair. It was a small dial recessed into the mechanism on the bottom of the chair, making it practically impossible to adjust while sitting. Now I'm someone who needs to tweak my tilt tension knob pretty frequently depending on the situation, since I don't like to lock my chair in place. So having it in a spot that's easy to access while sitting is a huge improvement. That said, once the tilt tension is set up properly, the recline motion itself on both chairs feels pretty good in my opinion. Moving on to the armrests have been significantly improved on the Pro. Now Branch calls these their 5D adjustable arms, adding new pivot adjustments and standard width adjustments where the arm pads slide left and right. The rest of the armrest adjustments are identical on both chairs. You get height adjustment, depth adjustment, and width adjustment with pretty good ranges of motion. And for these width adjustments, the entire arms slide in and out, giving you more space when you want to sit cross-legged. As for the arm pads themselves, they've been significantly improved on the Pro in my opinion. They're much softer and have more give compared to the original's arm pads, which were pretty hard and stiff. These new ones are much more comfortable to use and you can really dig your elbows into them without feeling any discomfort at all. So overall, I'd say the armrests are a pretty big upgrade on the Pro. So now let's talk about value. The original Branch Ergonomic chair starts at $329, while the Pro starts at $499 for the mesh version. Now this price goes up to $549 for the vegan leather and $649 for the genuine leather. Both chairs come with the exact same warranty policy. You get 7 years on the parts and components and 3 years on the fabrics. You also get a 30-day return window, though there's a $40 return shipping fee. Now, since the original Branch Ergonomic is a much cheaper chair, this warranty is really good because it's significantly better than what you'll get with most other budget options. However, if we're talking about the Pro model, it's positioned more as a mid-range office chair. And at this $500 to $600 price range, we're now starting to compete against chairs from the major brands like Haworth and Steelcase, who offer 12-year warranties. Now, when we're talking about the overall value of the chair, it's important to keep in mind what you're getting for your money relative to the competition. Overall, I think the original Branch Ergonomic chair is a really good value because you get a good-looking chair that's built well, is pretty comfortable, and has an excellent warranty compared to other chairs in its price range. And while the Branch Ergonomic Chair Pro improves on the original design in a lot of ways, I personally don't think it's as good of a value proposition considering the build quality is pretty similar to the original, the warranty is exactly the same, and the seat is actually a downgrade. Also, at this $500 price range, there's some really tough competition from the major brands like the Haworth Soji, the Haworth Breck, the Steelcase Series 1, or even the Eurotech Vera. And this list just goes on, especially if you consider refurbished options at this price point as well. And the Branch Ergonomic Chair Pro just isn't as good as any of these other options in my opinion. So at the end of the day, which chair should you choose? My advice, if you're specifically looking at these two chairs, I'd probably recommend saving some money and going with the original Branch Ergonomic, especially if you're on a budget. The Pro's upgrades are nice to have, but I don't think they justify the $200 price increase for most people. Also, I personally think the seat comfort is the most important factor in a chair, so the fact that the seat on the Pro bottoms out is pretty much a deal breaker for me. That said, if you were planning on spending $500 to $600 on the Pro before watching this review, here are some options that you might want to consider instead. Now, if you want a brand new chair, I would recommend the Haworth Soji. In my opinion, it's probably the best new office chair you can get in this price range. It's built well, it's really comfortable, and comes with a 12-year warranty from one of the most reputable brands in the industry. Now, if you're okay with getting a chair that's not brand new, then I'd recommend checking out a refurbished Steelcase EMEA from Crandall Office. The EMEA is normally a $1,000+ chair if you were to get it brand new, and it's one of my favorite chairs that I've ever tested. And when you get a refurbished model from Crandall Office, they'll clean it up, replace components, and reupholster the chair. They'll also give you a 12-year warranty, so you're getting a chair that's almost as good as if it were new at half the price. So with that said, I hope you guys found this comparison helpful. If you're interested in checking out any of the chairs that were mentioned throughout this video, I'll leave links down in the description. And if you did find value in this review, I'd really appreciate it if you'd hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. And finally, if you want to see my full individual reviews of both of these chairs, or check out some of my other office chair reviews, you can find those by clicking here.